always liked you. You were always the best of them. Best goddamn bartender from Timbuktu to Portland, Maine. Or Portland, Oregon, for that matter.
Thank you for saying so.
Here's to 5 miserable months on the wagon and all the irreparable harm that it's caused me.
How are things going, Mr. Torrance?
Things could be better, Lloyd. Things could be a whole lot better.
I hope it's...
Here's Johnny. Welcome to this week's episode of Two Guys and Some Horror. With me, as always, is my number one co-host, Clark. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm eating moon cheese, and it's really yummy. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm really excited to be talking about The Shining from 1980. As you know, it's one of my favorite novels, if not my favorite novel, written by Stephen King. This is the Stanley Kubrick adaptation, though. So he was the director, and half of the co-writing team, him and Diane Johnson, wrote the screenplay after denying Stephen King's screenplay. So we know the stars: Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd, Scatman Crothers. Awesome cast, solid cast. Realistically, those are the only 4 characters I can think of that are important to talk about.
I think Stuart Ullman, to a small degree, has some importance more in the book, but I believe we can reconnect to that.
Yeah,
here.
Definitely. I guess when I wrote that, I was definitely only thinking about the movie. So that's a really great point, especially when we do come to the, splitting differences when it comes to movie versus book stuff. That'll be really important. The budget for this film was huge. It was $19 million in 1980. That is a large amount of money. Do you have any stats specifically on grossing or how much this film made that you want to talk about at all?
I mean, not really. I mean, this movie had $19 million budget, and this film had, I don't know if you're going to bring this up later, but originally Stanley Kubrick had a different ending for this film, and it was lost. We don't have access to it anywhere, because he cut it as like the after the first day of it being aired, and he saw the ending and he hated it, so he reshot it or he recut it.
I mean, that's one of my big beefs, I guess, with the film. So that's definitely something I'm going to talk about. Yeah, I don't know much about the reason why it got lost or why he cut it or what he didn't like about it. So we can try
Stanley Kubrick was a perfectionist.
Yeah, I mean, I know that. I think anyone knows that. But I guess my thing is, do we have any details exactly what the ending was like that he was unhappy with its, version? If we have that information, I'd love to talk more about it, because the ending to this film versus the novel, to me, is a terrible ending. I would have loved to just end the appropriate way from the novel. So, but we'll get there. We'll get to that point, hopefully throughout our conversation here today. So the story for The Shining is a family goes to a hotel during the winter season because someone has to take care of it. So Mr. Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, becomes the caretaker of the Overlook Hotel. During that time, there is some sinister presence there, and it ends up causing the father to go a bit psychotic, losing his mind. Go ahead.
I loved the transition that they had from his sanity to his lack of sanity. So in this film, we meet Jack Torrance, and we see that he's given up drinking, and we see that in his character and his de-evolution into that. And I think this kind of deserves like some justice, really, in talking about, because Jack Nicholson portrayed his character perfectly.
See, I'll be the counter argument there, because I feel like Jack Nicholson did a great job once the psycho kicked in. But from the book's perspective, from my perspective of how I remember the book going for me at least, the film, he was pretty much not like a sane person the entire time. You can watch him kind of almost devolve. You can see that there's this constant twitch. In the book, they do a great job of showing his anger issues right off the bat, his
Right.
struggle with
Well,
everything.
we don't get that in the movie. This isn't the book. I
Sure.
understand that you're going to do a comparison to the movie and the book, and that's
Constantly,
fair. We can
yes.
talk about that later. But I think for what this film is, we see this anxious parent with a brand new job. Jack Nicholson portraying this kind of awkwardness there with his food, meeting Stuart Ullman, who is a different character in the book, but he's basically the guy who's hiring him, the guy overseeing the hotel and giving him this position. And our character, he I forgot his name. It's not funny, but I'm gonna forget everyone's names. Jack Torrance. I was like, it's Jack Nicholson's first name. There's no way he shares the first name of the character, but he does. And anyhow,
same with Danny, right? Same with Danny, because it's
Yeah.
played by Danny Lloyd, which is great.
it's crazy. So anyhow, well, Jack Nicholson, he the golfer, he has this new job. He's trying to perfect his life. He gave up alcohol. His wife talks about how he has his past issues. We get that, and we see that he's really trying. He and his wife kind of have this awkward connection as a couple. It's not like they're sweet on each other. It's like they're trying to make it work for their son.
Because of past issues, though, right? I mean,
right. And you get that feeling from them, though. And they do. Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson do a great job of creating kind of this struggling couple with a kid, and they're trying to make things work.
Yeah, I think it really shows itself once Shelley explains to the doctor. Once you see that scene with the doctor of, well, he was out of school for a certain amount of time or whatever, and the doctor asks why. Oh, he hurt his arm. Oh, well, what happened? Well, it was an accident. It's this, it's a mother trying not to make her husband sound like a complete, terrible person, which is great. You can tell that she still loves her husband to some degree. And Jack Nicholson is obviously because you see him at the hotel trying to get the job and all that. You can see he's trying to get back up on his feet in kind of a father husband kind of way and provide for his family.
The same thing as in the book. He is a writer. They do maintain like several of the main themes that pull from the book to this, like the house is haunted. This is before we get into the Dr. Sleep thing of like the evil energy or whatever that is. Like the house itself wants Danny for whatever reason. It's not explained really well in this movie. He has the ability to shine. He talks to, the main character, and the book is great. I agree with you there. I would say that the movie is also great, like in kind of the de-evolution of the father who tries to kill his family.
Sure. I mean, we can have that conversation. We can continue to have that conversation. That's the nice thing about this film is that I grew up watching this film, just knowing about the film, never having read the novel. And it was only it was last year actually that I read this novel because you and I had this conversation when Dr. Sleep was coming out. We did a bonus episode actually on the Dr. Sleep film. Loved that movie. Loved the book. Reading the book versus just watching the movie and then seeing the sequel really opens up your eyes about why Dr. Sleep the film was the way it was. Now, watching Stanley Kubrick make changes to the story for his own, personal creativity, that's all fine and dandy, but I can't like this movie knowing the book anymore. I used to love this movie. This is a winter go-to for me every year. That's why we are doing it also in the winter this year, because we feel like it's a really good opportunity to match a cold story, a cold film with a cold weather type feel. Just for the listeners, for why we picked it, when we picked it, kind of a thing. But after reading the book, I lose a lot of the things I loved about the movie, I guess is one way to put it. I can still watch the movie and enjoy it, but I'm not going to like it nearly as much as I used to, I guess is a good way to put it.
Sure. We could talk about the ending later. So in the process of this in the movie, Danny sees several things. Like he imagines the blood, he sees the twins, he has his invisible friend, who lives in his finger. We
Tony.
get Tony. Yes, we get several. We get the lady in the bathroom, the
Mhm.
bathtub, who basically grabs Danny, and then the dad makes out with her, and that's fun. That's one of the most terrifying moments in movie history, I would think. This
It's
film holds up, man. As a horror film, this movie holds up
it
for
really
anyone.
does. It really does. It is a great horror film. It is a staple when you talk about horror films. This is a staple. A lot of people go to this one. I really want
So
something scary to watch. The Shining, 1980. Do it.
I feel like the book Perfectionist is always going to be around, but you can't really fully encapsulate everything Stephen King put into his novel. And I think the ending change was actually makes sense when you read Mr. Kubrick's reasons for why Stanley Kubrick actually is like, this is why I removed this ending. This is why I changed this. This is why I moved that out and swapped this.
So we keep
I was
talking
like,
about
okay,
the
fair.
ending. We keep talking about the ending, but we say we'll get to the ending. So I think maybe we should just
We
let's
could
talk.
just jump to it because
Let's just do the ending. Yeah.
The dad's we've already mentioned he tries to kill the family. So in the book, the furnace needs to be checked, and that's like mentioned several times in the book as foreshadowing.
Correct.
And the house it's going to blow up because Jack Torrance isn't going to save it, and he basically screws up the furnace himself to make it so the house blows up as an act of redemption, where he wakes up momentarily from his possession by the house.
Very well
in
put.
the movie, Jack Torrance chases the family, and Stanley Kubrick's reasoning for that was he didn't want Jack to have a state of redemption. He wanted him to have a state of dying in pursuit of something. It was he wanted to ensure that the final chase was so memorable and visceral that you saw that there was no redemption for Jack's character, just darkness, as the movie ends with him being frozen and it kind of backing out and away from him.
Come.
And then you have the photo scene, which I don't.
So there's something else that's ruined to me in the ending of this film that happens, and that's Dick Halloran dying. So there was really no reason for Kubrick to change that, in my opinion, especially because Dick's such a pivotal character moving forward in the series. Knowing that this movie could get a sequel, to have to make someone fix that is silly, right? We could have just said he was heavily injured like they do in the book. And you don't have to make him a hero even. You know, he was there to try and help Danny, and that's fine. Could have left it at that. But the fact that they actually kill him off in this movie was a bit, to me, it was just bad. Wasn't worth it. Especially with how hard a lot of these actors worked to get these scenes just right for Kubrick. I mean, Kubrick, like we've mentioned, is a perfectionist. His directing skills, he is an amazing director. He's a really good writer. It shows in his films, but the pressure that he puts on the characters, and then to kill off a character in hopes of them having a potential in a sequel, knowing that there is a sequel, kind of sucks.
Right.
But from the movie's perspective, he didn't need to die. That wasn't really important or pivotal, in my opinion. Some of the other things that kind of bothered me with the ending, it's just that the boiler room itself it's no longer an important piece of the movie. It's only mentioned once in the film, but it's so pivotal throughout the entire book. You know, Jack has to constantly go check it. That's where Jack ends up finding a lot of the information about the Overlook. It's where he first sees the pictures of the different people who have been at the Overlook. The whole mafia aspect of the Overlook was really cool in the novel, and it obviously gets cut. I can understand that being cut for sure, just because of time. I mean, you can't. It's a big book. You can't put everything in the movie. Totally get it. But that boiler room is really pivotal for the novel, and for it to just get completely dropped from the movie kind of blows in my opinion. That was my biggest beef with the ending. Halloran dying in the boiler room for sure.
You know what? I'm okay with Halloran dying if this movie is just a standalone thing, which it kind of is. They did what they could with Doctor Sleep to tie in the film, and then they gave in like the original Shining ending just to be like, hey, look, we followed through.
Yeah.
We followed Stephen King's vision and added it to Stanley Kubrick's. Great, wonderful. I don't really care. The film itself is just he used an axe this time instead of a mallet. An axe is a bit more foreboding. I think it's to strike fear into the audience, say this guy is now dead and he's coming for the wife and child, and now they are helpless as they both run out into the cold as he chases them and freezes to death.
Yeah. No, I mean,
as we pan away from his frozen face.
I can
It had the
definitely
house blown up.
understand it.
I think this movie wouldn't have been as powerful if it didn't have that miserable ending.
So the miserable ending of Jack dying without the
with
redemption.
Jack, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I guess I always like happier endings when it comes to movies.
Yeah.
Horror isn't really that type of genre, right? A lot of times there isn't a happy ending. Final Girls aren't a happy ending. I don't care what you think. Just because one person out of the 12 that survived does not mean it is a happy ending, right?
Right.
So totally get that. Some more of the missing scenes. So things that kind of I was bummed about is like those little scenes in the book where you get like the fire hose incident as he's walking through the hallway, and the fire hose turns into a snake and attacks him. I thought
Right.
that was a missed opportunity as well for like little things in the movie that you could have done to really make it worthwhile for those who do love the novel and came to see the movie still.
The giant stingray shadow.
Yeah, would have
As
been
well.
been
So-
nice.
The mini series is I brought it up to you a few times. They have all this stuff. The acting's not less than par. It's the guy from Wings, the brother character. He's been in a few films.
Yes.
He's the father, and it's okay.
Yeah, we have it on the list. It's more of like one of those things. We'll get to it eventually, probably. But I'm not like going out of my way. It's hard to find anywhere. You can't find the Shining TV series anywhere in good quality, I should say. YouTube, I believe, has some of it. Vimeo had some of it for a while, but it's very like low standard quality. Someone taped a tape of a VHS tape and then put it up on YouTube. So, I mean, I do want to watch it just to kind of fulfill my missing gaps between the book and the movie. But here's a good point where we can actually do a little bit more positive notes, right? Because I always like to be more positive about the films we watch than negative. I think I've gotten most of the things that were ruined for me. Well, no, the last thing that bugs me is still Tony's friend. I guess that would be the last
Okay.
thing. Because there isn't any explanation in the film, but the book gives you tons of explanation about who Tony is, right? And I think getting that explanation really helps understand Danny's character. But like you said, if this is a standalone and there really is no sequel ever coming, it's fine. You don't lose anything. But I don't know. What's your opinion on Tony?
Tony's just it's Danny's. It's just Danny projecting himself as an adult, and he's talking to him. And in the case of him just being in his finger and them really not talking to it, I'm fine with that. The only way to really watch The Shining is to get the DVD. At this point, it's not anywhere like the miniseries. Like we actually have to buy it.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a pain point, but it's
Sure.
what it is.
Sure.
As far as Tony goes, man, like I'm good with Tony. Tony and I are pretty cool. He's just he's a MacGuffin to further the plot along. That's all he is.
You son of a bitch. Tony and I are
What?
pretty cool. We're all right. No,
Yeah.
just the way you did it. I love the framing there. Nice job. Yeah, I guess so going back to understanding Danny, he has ESP, that's the idea behind that character. So the background of the novel to the film, because it has to transition through that, is it's Stephen King's personal dealings that he had when he stayed at the Stanley Hotel in 1974. Nuns were leaving the hotel, and he felt like this place no longer has any god. It's godless. And he already had a concept for a boy who had ESP. So he kind of put those two things together, created The Shining. That's how he came up with the idea. But Tony specifically is supposed to be, it's actually Danny from the future talking back in time. So there's a bit of time travel there, which really bothers me personally. But it is himself from the future telling him what's going to happen.
They say that until you read Doctor Sleep.
And then they
Like,
change it.
Yeah. That's been, yeah, no, it's not that anymore. It's just him.
Sure. But, so for the film, they just scratch all of it, which I think is probably the best choice, honestly. That was a positive for me for the adaptation. It becomes a very big positive thing throughout the film
Right.
because you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's no longer something that's important. So some things that I loved about the movie version of the book, right? The opening of the film, I thought everything, including the interview and the cutscenes between, Jack for the interview and Danny with the mom back at the house and all of that, the way it pans out and everything, I thought that was phenomenally done. I thought they did a great job. The portrayal of Jack's character leading up to that point, I wish we would have got a little bit more of what he was thinking in his head maybe, but this isn't that kind of movie. They don't really do that. But I thought the interview was great. I thought that conversation was really close to what we got in the book, which is nice.
I like that. I like that.
Halloran giving us that exposition with Danny when they're talking about the power, the shine, and all of that. It's pretty good. It's pretty solid.
How do you like
Go ahead.
How do you like Scatman's bedroom when Danny's talking to him? All the booby posters and the nudie posters everywhere. He's just like,
Pretty normal for him.
just reminds me of the Treehouse of Horror of The Simpsons. Like that's your standard bachelor pad right there. And then like,
Well, isn't that episode? So most Treehouse
Yeah,
of Horror
but
episodes
then-
are actually like mocked around some horror film. That's the
yeah,
one.
or
yeah.
some horror concept. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure that I've read that one is supposed to be modeled after Dick's bedroom. It's pretty, if you don't watch this movie closely enough and you're just kind of side-eyeing it or something and it's on and you've never seen it before and you don't know what it is, you might think this guy's a little creepy, to be honest, the way Halloran's talking to Danny and how he secretly takes him off from the parents to give him ice cream. I don't know many
This
parents.
is back in the day when it was okay for adults to kind of hang around kids and
Side note,
kind
but
of like be friendly with people. This is before we had all the scares thrown at us from the media, which completely changed the landscape.
so this was in 80. That's true when they shot the film.
Yeah.
But when the book was written in 74, I'm trying to think the feuds between white folks and black folks, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if it would have been okay for a black man to be taking a white child away to have a conversation private. I don't know. We're not going to dive into that. In
Well,
80,
he was
maybe
like
it
the
was
head
less.
chef, and this was a progressive family, and
There we go.
I'm a little disturbed at you saying they would be less than friendly, Curtis.
Hey,
If they were, they should be fired.
looking at the timeline, yeah, they should be fired.
Hashtag fire Overlook Hotel people for being racist. I got nothing. No, this is a good movie. My favorite part is when Wendy is sitting in the back, and I love Shelley Duvall. I don't know why she hasn't been in more movies, like solid movies. This is her most iconic role. When that axe gets nailed in through the door, and you see her reaction of freaking out, like in terror, and as Jack Torrance puts his face in and says, "Here's Johnny," the most iconic scene out of any movie, I would argue. Spine chills. Like the first time you watch this film, like you're scared, man. Like I don't care who you are, unless you lack the capability of fear, like that's just terror right there. She's trying to get Danny to go through the window, and then get through herself. Like that is the pivotal moment where Jack either kills them or he himself dies with his insane obsession that he received from the house.
Totally. That scene took, she said, 3 days to shoot and 60 doors that Jack had to break through in order to actually achieve the one shot that they took. And we all know Kubrick you're going to shoot, you're not shooting one take like a Clint Eastwood film, one take and you're done. You know, you're shooting 10, 20, 30 takes, and they're continuous shots. They're not like little clips here, little clips there. We'll mash things together and make it work, whatever. No, Kubrick it had to be perfect, solid scenery all the way through. So to hear her kind of and by the way, I just want to make a note. I love watching interviews of cast and characters. This one has a little bit better in my opinion because Kubrick's wife was there on set and she actually followed him around day to day during the shooting of the film. So we get a lot more of an actual like behind the scenes, like a real behind the scenes look at how things went. So to watch and listen and hear Shelley Duvall interacting with Kubrick, you get this sense that, you know, there's a reason why she had such a tremendous performance, I think, in this film. A lot of his direction helped. But specifically speaking of the axe in the door scene, you couldn't do that with a mallet probably as effectively, right? So that's a really great choice to make sure it was that there's an axe versus it.
Well, the axe is scarier than getting hit with a mallet bluntly because that pierces and can be used as a blunt object.
Yep.
No, terrifying scene. The addition of the twins. What do you feel about that?
I mean, they come and they go, and that's it. There isn't really.
They're creepy looking.
Sure, and they're, you know, a lot of people when you talk to them about The Shining, that's something that gets brought up quite a bit. You know, oh, the twins, they frightened me when I was a kid. Yeah, well. Yeah. I never really was creeped out by them. The blood rushing out of the elevator is a lot more worrisome to me. The ghosts in the ballroom are a lot more worrisome to me. The damn bartender, you know, Lloyd, is a lot more worrisome to me as a kid, and now as an adult, I still kind of get the heebie-jeebies whenever we talk about ghosts.
Like
I'm not a big fan of blood and paranormal, to be honest. So like Paranormal Activity, The Conjuring, anything that deals with possession or ghosts, those are the movies that really I have a hard time watching and not getting creeped out about. Slashers are totally easy.
Even The Shining?
The Shining, bits of it, you know, different pieces definitely bug me. The fact that Danny seems possessed right off the bat, you know, that someone's living in him is a little weird. Then once you know and understand and unpack that, it's fine. But Jack getting possessed by the spirits at the hotel is super disturbing. It makes you think, like, what if people who are totally normal in regular day, right? I always like to put myself in the position of the characters in the movie just to see if it makes it any spookier for me. But what if people you know every day, they're totally normal, happy-go-lucky people. They have totally normal things happening to them in life, right? But then they have that switch. You know, a lot of people, it's an anger management thing. It's usually something that they go to counseling for, maybe. What if, instead of it being something that they are dealing with and they have to come over, what if it is a spirit possessing them and causing them to be so angry? You know, in a regular day situation. It's I don't know. That gives me the heebie-jeebies. What if that was what was happening to somebody?
Yeah.
$70? Wait, whoa. $70?
That's for the special, super duper special edition one.
Okay. I'm just gonna buy the VHS tape.
Anyhow, Curtis just saw the thing that you can get it for 14 too if you don't want that.
I'll add a link so people can see what we're talking about.
It's the Shining 2-disc special edition at $70. That's with all the probably behind the scenes stuff as well.
You could only hope. So you think you're asking me what my favorite scene is?
I want to know what your favorite part in the book that didn't make it into the movie is.
The hedge maze animals.
The hedge maze
huge
animals.
Huge disappointment that we didn't get the hedge animals at all in this film, I totally understand why. Kubrick even explains that it just wasn't feasible with their timeline, with their budget and everything they're working with. So the hedge animals didn't make it in. Instead, we get a hedge maze, which actually really helps Kubrick's ending. But I think that would be the biggest thing that I wish would have been in the film versus the movie. It was kind of... It still works, right? There's nothing wrong with it. I just wish we would have got hedge animals.
I'm gonna have to agree. Like the hedge animals were fantastic. Those are absolutely terrifying nightmare fuel. I think I had a nightmare based off of those, like with the elephant coming awake and oof,
Ooh, or
that is
being
freaky.
pounced on by a hedge lion or whatever it was. Was it a hedge lion or a hedge panther or something? But it was
Yeah,
almost
I think
like
it
a
was.
dog, you know. Ooh, definitely
Yeah.
nightmare fuel. Fun fact for you, sir. Do you know why they changed the room number from 217 to 237?
No, why?
So, Oregon's Timberline Lodge, which was used for the exterior of this film, Lodge's administration, they actually asked that the room number be changed so no one ever avoided room 217. So, room 217 exists, but room 237 does not exist in the hotel. So that was their big reason, is they just didn't want anyone to not want to stay in that room, which is so funny because I think it burned them a little bit. Everyone wants to stay in room 217 now at that hotel. Nobody's avoiding it. Fans and you know, even novel fans, movie fans, everyone wants to go stay at that hotel in room 217. Could have made a much bigger impact had they just left it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
2020, right? Hindsight 2020.
237 or 217.
Yeah, you could have done. I mean, shit, could have done both.
You could have done it. You could have gotten your stuff together, but you didn't. You didn't get it together. You got it
But
not
you
together.
didn't.
And I'm less than approving of your decisions in life. Less than approving.
You know what my
So
absolute
I think
favorite part of this movie is, though?
what
The score.
the score. Oh yeah, no, I agree there. It's pretty good. Them driving up, talking about the pioneers that ate each other. He's like, "Isn't this where the Donner Party ate each other?"
Uh-huh.
No, I think that's further up north.
And
I love
then
the setting of this film. Everything in this film is worth like I would watch this again over and over
I
if
do.
anyone wanted to watch it. And
I
they
do.
said, "Hey, let's watch The Shining." I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" But what I just want to say, man, it's a great film. Stanley Kubrick did a decent job with his vision. Had we had everything in The Shining, which I really think would need to be done in a miniseries, maybe it would be good, maybe it wouldn't be. We have it in the miniseries. People didn't like it, I guess.
Yeah, a TV miniseries is hard, in my opinion, too, because you're limited on what you can show on television. So now you have
Yeah.
those limitations you have to overcome versus creativity or creative differences that you have from director to writer kind of a thing as well. And we all know how Stephen King does with directing. So let's just be honest here. No one wants him to direct anything. We're not asking for that. That's for sure. Maximum Overdrive.
So the
Check
hedge
it out.
animals the hedge animal thing does happen in the miniseries.
I'm like I said, I can't wait to check out the miniseries. Haven't seen it, so I can't really speak to it. But I
Yeah.
am tempted now to purchase what you just sent me, the link you just sent me on Amazon for the DVDs. 70
It's 70
bucks isn't
bucks,
too
man.
bad, considering, you know, we can turn that into like a good week's worth of watching and discussing and talking about. That could be a lot of fun for you and I. And our own
Yeah.
personal time.
In a real personal time. Well, it's time to take your medicine.
Yeah, it is. It's always time to take. Did they even talk? I mean, doesn't that only get brought up a little bit in the film versus the novel? The novel, it's a very
Not
common
really.
thing.
Not really.
I didn't think so.
We don't get to hear "take your medicine" very much. That's
Nope.
more of Dr. Sleep.
Doctor Sleep in the novel, right? Because in the novel,
Yeah.
Jack talks a lot about
Not
how his
100%.
dad made him take the medicine, so he was going to make his son take the medicine. But that's about it.
Yeah.
So, interestingly enough, the first time Stephen King got approached by Stanley Kubrick to talk about this movie and making this novel into a movie, Kubrick actually called him very early in the morning because London time difference versus Maine time difference. And the first thing he talked about was ghost stories and how optimistic they are, because that they suggest that humans actually survive death and that there is no hell afterwards. So King promptly asked Kubrick back, but what about hell? Like what about the idea that there is a hell? And Kubrick paused, then replied back to him saying, I don't believe in hell. So then King replied, stating that there are people who do believe in hell. like many people who believe in hell, right? And that they actually fear it more than death itself, which proved to be tremendously effective for Kubrick in understanding how the story should feel for the viewers. And I think that it does play a part in the movie, but not really nearly as much as in the book. You know, movies have a hard time always, I think. We can list tons of movies that have issues going from novelization to films. The adaptations just always don't pan out. It's very rare that they do. Harry Potter series, think about all those movies. Not every single one of those are good. Not every single one of those hit everything. But I think, yeah, you know,
like the Harry Potter movies? Gross.
I do like Harry Potter.
Gross.
I like D&D. I like Harry Potter. I like video games.
You don't like D&D.
I do. I think we've talked more than enough about this wonderful film. Like I said, it's a really good movie. Clark thinks it's a really good movie. Maybe it's time to move on to fun facts and trivia. He's trying to hide from me. So we've done a little bit. We've spit some facts and some trivia items for you, but I've got a couple more that I listed here just so that way I wouldn't forget to bring them up. I would like to take a moment to defend Stanley Kubrick and how he treated the actors. There's a lot of people out there who have watched the behind-the-scenes footage and interviews with Shelley Duvall and feel like he treated her and Scatman very poorly on set, causing them to break down into tears throughout the filming. But one place where I really have to commend Kubrick and give him props is his protection over Danny Lloyd. So little Danny, throughout the making of this film, had no idea it was a horror film. He just thought he was shooting a drama with his family. The cool thing about that is the idea that you don't want to mess up some kid's mind mentally, making them think that they're making a horror movie, right? So in a lot of the scenes where it did get a little bit more creepy or horrific, for instance, Shelley running with Danny when Jack is chasing them, that's actually a dummy in Shelley's arms. That's not little Danny. And in fact, Danny Danny didn't even see this movie in its actually uncut, like actual uncut filming version until he was 17, which is 11 years after he made the film. He did see a heavily edited version a few years after he had made it, but he had never seen the actual film in its entirety until he was 17, which is pretty crazy.
Makes sense.
I think so. I mean, as far as I could tell from looking him up, like he hasn't gone off the deep end and done anything crazy, so that's good. That's that's the goal. That's good. Some more fun facts about Danny. So he actually came up with the idea of moving the finger on his own. That's not something that was that he was told to do or anything like that. He just did it in the audition, and Kubrick really liked it and thought, hey, let's keep that going throughout.
Hey, I like this kid. Give him a job. We're done.
Tony. So, in order to get Jack Nicholson properly agitated for this film, he only ate cheese sandwiches for 2 weeks straight. And Jack Nicholson hates cheese sandwiches. I think he was more constipated than anything, which probably helped drive his agitation. I really gotta take a shit. But he couldn't, and he was just angry.
Yeah. No, not a fan either.
You've heard about Jack Nicholson's craziness when it comes to making films, right? I mean, when he played the Joker in Batman, he got really into character, and he's a really great method actor. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is another one I can think of.
Oh, right.
So in this film, he got so tired of all of the constant script changings, he just stopped reading them. He would only read the pages as they were given to him each and every day on set. Going into the scene to film it real quick, he'd read over the scenes, and then bam, he would just go, which led to a lot of improvisation. For instance, when he's supposed to be not working, that's all the book really says is he's not working. He decided to take that tennis ball and start throwing it around the big ass room in the hotel. That was all him. He just felt that was more of a way of showing, hey, I'm completely blowing off work and not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's what he went with.
I love blowing off work. Anyhow. Next trivia.
So Stanley Kubrick's secretary spent weeks, if not months, writing all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy pages just for that one scene.
Oh, really? Hmm.
I think I've got something for you to do to blow
Didn't
off
have
work.
copiers that back then, I guess.
Well, that and I guess the authenticity, because how many pages does she pull? She pulls quite a few, but that could be done in a day probably. But the fact that they wrote weeks, if not months, I hope someone has a legit copy from the scene. You know what I mean? Like, I really hope that it just didn't go in the garbage can.
Hope
With
so.
with all the hate that Stanley Kubrick gets for how he treated Shelley Duvall on the scene of the film, on the scene when they're filming,
Right.
the pressure he put her through, the hysteria that he put her through, I can't. From his point of view, everything that he does, he justifies, right? I personally, watching the behind the scenes and stuff like that, it's pretty crazy to see how
Yeah.
much he's put her through. But it's really awesome to see that in a lot of the interviews, he speaks very highly of her and her ability to act. And he actually found himself, he says, quite impressed by her performance in the finished film, which is really good to see. So he feels
Are
like
you talking about Shelley Duvall?
yeah, Stanley Kubrick and Shelley Duvall, speaking of her.
Well, so did we talk about Jack Nicholson and how he didn't want her? He wanted Jessica Lange.
We did not talk about that. No.
Yeah, so Jack Nicholson. So you're talking about Stanley Kubrick, like with what you were saying, he wanted Shelley Duvall as his more timid, dependent version of Wendy Torrance.
Yes.
Jack Nicholson, like after he read the book, he's like, yeah, Jessica Lange would be better, and he recommended it to him, and like he kept trying to convince Kubrick otherwise, but Kubrick talked him into like saying Duvall's right, and then years later, Jack Nicholson said that Duvall was fantastic and called her work in the film the toughest job I think that any actor I've ever seen had.
Yeah.
So I just don't know why she doesn't have more work.
I don't know. Yeah, she has 52 acting credits, but dropped off after 2002. Nothing major
Well,
there. I can't.
The
Yeah.
things she's acted in were all like TV. She hasn't really been on any major blockbuster since The Shining. I would argue like Suburban Commando or any of those other films. Popeye was a flop. Anything after this, you may have seen her, but she just hasn't really been in anything other than like TV, like one episode
Yeah.
here and there.
Yeah. I'm sure she's. I'm sure
Yeah.
she's doing all right, but
Probably.
I would say actually, yeah, after the early 80s, she didn't really do anything that was a big success until after it was done, right? You got
Right.
Popeye, which has a huge cult following now, but wasn't a big success in the box office.
Oh, it does? I thought it was
does.
massive flop.
No, there's a lot of people who really love Popeye for a nostalgia purpose,
Oh.
right? Robin Williams, Shelley Duvall, they really love their dynamic in that film as well. But then you also have like
Nice.
Time Bandits, which has a huge following, but it's also one of those cult classics, not a box office success. Moving forward, you have Roxanne, which is also a movie that a lot of people in the late 80s watched, but it was more of an early 90s kids film. People really love that. And then Suburban Commando. I mean, you hear about it, but I've never seen it. I don't know if you've seen it.
It's terrible. It's
Yeah.
terrible, man.
And then everything else,
It's
like you said.
the
TV.
epitome of like 90s movies. It has a bunch of big names, but it's just one of those ham-fisted movies that throw stuff at the wall and see if it sticks. Comedies.
I'm laughing because she was a voice for a character in Ah, Real Monsters back in 97, which I watched as a kid and loved. And Wishbone,
yeah.
the TV series on PBS, which is about the little dog and all the cool stories and adventures that he would go on. So yes,
Yeah.
she did not have a huge career, but she is in a lot of things that I thought were a lot of fun when I was younger. So very cool.
Well, with that being said,
yeah,
I think
that's all we
do you
got.
have any more fun facts and trivia?
Nothing in my opinion that's too big. Just another hat tip to Kubrick. He is a directing genius, right? And I never want
Metal
to.
Jacket.
Yeah, Full Metal Jacket, Clockwork Orange. I never want to make it seem like I don't like him. I wasn't a big fan of this adaptation. So, with that being said, the film is amazing. Hard to say anything bad about it. Yeah, I think it might be time to plug our social media. You can follow us
Let's
on
plug.
you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at the number 2 guys horror pod. That is the number 2 guys horror pod. Every week I'm doing different posts. We're in the middle of hashtag 26 weeks of horror. So every week on Monday, I put out a new post just to have people give me ideas for a different movie starting with the letter and the alphabet of the week. So join in on that. Have a lot of fun with that. Then we create polls throughout the week to decide what movie we're going to watch on Friday. Then at Friday, about at 2 o'clock usually, Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, we then watch it and live tweet. You can join in. You can be a part of that conversation using the hashtag I provide each week because I try to keep it different, just pertaining to the movie. You can also email us at our Gmail account. It is 2 guys and some horror, all spelled out, at gmail.com. 2 guys and some horror and at gmail.com.
Before we get going, Curtis, what have you been up to lately?
Honestly, let's see. Not a lot. I really haven't been up to much lately. Work's been kicking my butt. We're getting ready for, I think we've been talking about this for a while. Obviously, these are filmed quite a bit in advance. Just work's been work. A little bit of Phasmophobia, I guess. Shout out to that.
That's what I was going to talk about, Curtis, was Phasmophobia. You took mine.
No, we can share
You
it.
haven't been playing that much.
No, I haven't, but that's the only thing I can think of that I've been doing. I haven't even been playing
So,
Tarkov. I've only been playing that.
Do you always play Tarkov?
I wish. A lot of times it's just sitting.
Phasmophobia is a great game. You hunt ghosts with your team, and you basically, someone's got like a thermometer. You can have an EMF reader, see if there's ghost activity. Ghosts move and grab things, or they can kill you. So, scary game. Highly recommend it. With that being said, that's what we've been up to lately. I guess we let you guys go because we love you. Thank you for listening to us.
And if you guys do want to hang out with us or play some video games with us or even just have a conversation, please remember, reach out. We're here for you. You can leave comments down below on YouTube, or you can tweet at us or DM us or email us. So all those areas of communication are open. We love suggestions. We've already done quite a few. So like Clark said, we love you. We appreciate you. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Peace out.
Later. Crunch, 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 crunch. Raise my seat. Woo! Get high up. Ready to get clapped when you're ready to clap me, sir.
Perfect.